Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, it's Sejohn Sarowick. And usually this is where I let Sejohn talk, but I'm about to take the reins of the old Say ride and hand them over to him, because most of this episode, he's going to be in charge. So, Sejohn, I hope you don't throw up from the responsibility I've just gifted to you.
No, I think I'm gonna be okay. But yeah, Dev, we got a lot going on this week. We're doing a very particular thing today. But before we do, we should probably talk about kind of the state of the union, as it were.
Yeah, that's a good one. I will make mention that this is another approved absence episode of the Say Report. We are recording this really in the thick of it all. To be completely honest about it, it is Sunday, June 22nd when we are recording this. It means that when you listen to it, you just get to hear us talk about Jaws at length. And I have to say, I know that other people knew it was the 50th anniversary, but damn is the Bader-Meinhof effect real. Because as soon as we recorded that episode for the 50th of Jaws, I heard about it fucking everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Jaws became a kind of a running theme for the week for me as well, up to and including my family delightfully picked up a Mad Magazine movie spoofs edition while they were traveling, because they were lonely and were thinking of me, and I appreciate that. But the cover for it being Jaws, and when I asked them if they had done that after I had told them about what we had done last week, they said no, they had already picked it up. It had just already been on them when we recorded.
I knew what you meant, but there was this little voice in the back of my mind thinking that you were asking Mad Magazine did you guys do Jaws as the cover because you heard the Say Report just did an episode on it? And then Alfred E. Newman, no. We're a magazine. This has been finalized for literally 3 months. That's how far out we do these things. And you're like, man, Alfred E. Newman, you're like real buttoned up, like corpo guy now. And he's like, yeah, you do it for 60 years.
At some point, you got to grow up, kid.
No, yeah, it is. Also, come to find out, this is the 20th anniversary of the return of Narragansett beer. We crushed a couple like Quint in that episode, and I didn't realize that they re-emerged into the market in 2005, just when it was time for me to start legally drinking. I know we try to avoid main character energy at the Say Report, but that's a little suspicious, Sejohn. Finally, Devon's back. We can make the Narragansett again.
Yeah.
But yes, so I'm just making fun because I want to avoid where we are right now, the state of the union, as Sejohn said it, and the unconstitutional attack that our president just ordered.
It's going to be really interesting to see where people land on that exact phrase, Dev, because, so as of last night, we were informed that the U.S. government decided to get involved in the Iran-Israel conflict by bombing 3 locations, right, in Iran? Supposed nuclear locations.
Jeez. I mean, like, here's the weird thing. You kind of felt like something like this was going to happen, but you never thought you'd actually be sitting in front of your microphone as somebody who reports on everything and, like, saying those exact words. Saying that it escalated to that level. Yeah. Fun. Lots of fun. Yeah, sorry,
it's a weird space to be in, man,
moment
because,
right now.
This feels very much like the couple of weeks after 9/11 when we were very unsure. And I'm not saying this like I'm not equating
no
anything to 9/11 itself, but rather the only other time in my life that I remember sitting here and thinking, where are we going in this regard, military wise, and all of that, was around, like, 2 or 3 weeks after that. And we were clearly about to go to war, but how was that going to shape up? What was that going to look like? And I feel like that's where we're at right now. There's plenty of people that keep trying to tell us that that's not what's happening, that what was done was not a act of war, was not, as you put it, what did you say?
I said it was an unconstitutional attack.
Unconstitutional, yeah.
Because I'm
yeah.
fairly certain he
Well,
just
because,
did it, right?
And so, like, just so that people are all on the same page, like, what we mean by that is that the war cannot be declared by a president, and acts of war cannot be performed by a president without approval by Congress and things like that. Congress has to be involved, essentially, is the moral of the story. Was this, the problem is that the world has twisted the world. The U.S. has twisted that, and specifically the office of the president has twisted that since, honestly, since like the 50s, right? Like, we haven't had an actual congressional like act of war declared since like the 1940s, since World War II, right? Because that was the big deal with Vietnam, was that it was never actually approved by Congress, and there was a whole bunch of weird shit there. And then, what's the phrase that George W. Bush really liked to use? Military operation, military exercise, right? It was like, it's not war. This is just a military exercise or some shit. Yeah. It's just like, great, fucking great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is. June 1942 is the last time that the U.S. officially declared war. So, almost 83 years ago, which is just cool. That's a cool. It is. It's this weird. Like, you saw it happen, and then, okay, so what's next? I'm reminded of Aaron Sorkin, if we're going to talk about 9/11 and just the way it feels. They're 2 seasons into The West Wing, The West Wing being the fan fiction, can you imagine if George W. Bush had not won, how great this country could have been? And I know that they were like before that, but that's what the show turned into. It was initially, let's do this fun, behind the scenes. This is how the president does his job. Did you know that there's a whole staff who works just for the president? We didn't know who press secretaries were before C.J. Craig. Maybe we did, but it wasn't. I feel like Peoria didn't know before The West Wing. And Aaron Sorkin is a real big fan of the question, what's next? And that is where I feel we are squatly placed in terms of the world right now, is what's next. And it has been, the news has been on in the house all morning. I've done my best to escape from the deeper and the darker of it, but it would also just kind of feel that little bit disingenuous if we came here and talked about our last episode on Jaws and then shared our summer song playlist, which is Say-mmer Nights, and just did not acknowledge that right now we're in the middle of something that is yeah.
Oh man. So we don't know where things are going to be by the time this even comes out. It's a weird space to be in. So,
that's the other reason why.
But we felt like we needed to address it because, like, how could we not talk about that of all things?
Exactly. It'd be really weird if this, like, it's an approved absence. We know we're not going to be here next week because I think you're traveling, right? You're getting to travel. I'm still going to be at the studio, but I'll be doing my own stuff, not related to the Say Report. But it would just feel weird if, like, let's not talk about this thing that's like, if this were a regular episode, if we were recording right now to release tomorrow, this would be something we'd be talking about. And that's undeniable. So this is where we are. But again, it is early days. By the time this episode actually does release, we'll probably know more. And also, in the meantime, between the release of our Jaws episode and this episode, there's going to be the Tank Girl very special episode, which also feels a little strange considering what we're talking about. But, that's it. I guess if we're also, who else we addressed while we're in, like, kind of the sad pit Say Report moment? Not the sad pit, but, like, complicated feelings at the Say Report. Let's call them complicated feelings at the Say Report. The passing of Brian Wilson, we never really acknowledged that either. Now that one, I will admit, that's on me. I was not prepared to acknowledge that Brian Wilson died.
We talked off mic about it, and we talked about the idea that like it seems like, at least from the outside, that he at least had the ability to rebound in his life in a way that a lot of people that have some very traumatic stories in the music industry don't always get the opportunity to. And so it was very sad that he passed. But as you aptly pointed out, it would have been a lot worse if he had passed at a time before he had the chance to actually finish Smile, things like that,
Yeah. If while Landy was still had his thumb on the back of his neck, convincing him that everything was wrong in his life in order to milk his bank accounts dry, and then Brian Wilson had passed away. So like in the 80s, that would have been tragic. It's sad to see somebody who had such a cultural effect on our culture, right? I feel like an asshole the way I just said that, to know that like he passed away. But part of the beauty of life is that it's finite. Right, you got to make sure you're not here for a long time. You're here for a good time, so make sure you're doing something worthwhile. And he was certainly able to do something worthwhile in the wake of the love and mercy that he suffered under Dr. Landy. And I think that's the last we're gonna say about it. But I also finally sat down with myself and processed all of my feelings about the passing of Brian Wilson this past week. So it felt worth mentioning. Anything else just hyper depressing to talk about before we literally flip a switch and try to talk about happier things?
Yeah, no, let's talk about some happier things. Was there anything culturally important that you got up to this week that you want to mention? There's a couple of things that I did that I should talk about.
Acoustic karaoke, it was just Dayle and I, so we got to perform 14 songs between the two of us. Two not duets, but two we performed together, and then 6 each. That was a blast.
So basically, you were the entertainment for the night.
Yeah, and that became, I guess this is a good way to tailspin out of what we were talking about. It became really interesting because around 9:30. Took a little break, because it was just us performing, really. The acoustic guy, Mark, he did some songs too, and there was also a percussionist there, Leo, he sang, and also some other people from the bar. You don't usually see that. The people who are at the bar don't usually get involved, so it was kind of nice to have them come on. But all that happened after what occurred around 9:30 that evening, which is the after wake. I don't know what you call the party after the wake, because a wake's more of a party than mourning, right? A wake is supposed to be a celebration of life. And all of these people had come from a wake at a funeral home that's about half a mile down from the bar that we go to. So the bar, with, an hour and a half before they close, filled up with people. And I mean, it's more people than I've ever seen in this bar on anything but a Saturday night. And they come to the table because we're sitting with the guitar player. There's nobody there, so he sat with us as we killed time, how we're gonna do the rest of the night, and requested if we could do some country in honor of the guy they were there after waking. After wake feels like the weirdest term, but I don't want to call it an after party. Sejohn, do you have any any suggestion on this?
I do think it is. I think after party is an apt term for it, though.
Okay,
I mean, there are certain cultures, certain people, certain families that the way that they address death is with a party, and that's exactly what you're pointing to, is that and the beauty of going somewhere to do it is that you're not imposing it on somebody's home that maybe is not into that sort of celebrating at a pretty vulnerable time in their life.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I would call it an after party.
Yeah, okay. So they
an afterlife party.
An after that's after wake feels like I'm saying afterlife party, but with less steps, but also it also kind of feels a little you're flirting with being gallows humor, a little insulting to what they're doing. I don't know.
We should not keep death at arm's length.
Yeah, that's true. We should not fear death the way that I feel so many people. When I was very young, I was hyper afraid of death. And then I've life goes on.
I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I don't want to die right now. But this idea that we can't
talk about it.
That it would be taboo. The idea that it would be taboo to celebrate after someone's passing has never clicked with me, because much like you were saying, like, it's a celebration of their life. It's a remembrance of them. Some of the best memories that I have in those awful moments are the fact that I got to have happy moments. You know what I mean? Like, it helps kind of ease the pain of those moments by remembering that. But there was a hell of a party, you know? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's to each their own, though. Obviously, I'm not saying that's the way it needs to be done.
Right. And that's very true. That's a very good point. But they come up and they're like, is it possible to do some country? Now, I've been performing country since high school. I'm a real Y2 country kind of guy. I liked Kenny Chesney at the time and Toby Keith, R.I.P. So, like, that stuff. Keith, I'm not really a big fan of Keith Urban. I mean, he's a hot nugget, but other than that, ever since he got with Nicole Kidman, it just doesn't feel the same. I'm kidding. I have no problem with Keith Urban. You know what? I have some problem with Keith Urban. I don't like that he was an American Idol coach. That seemed weird to me. I don't know. But then I'm like, yeah, sure, we can do some country. Is there anything else? Is there anything specific you want to hear? No, just country. He loved country. And it's like, oh, that's helpful. So we go through the listed songs, and most of them are songs that people have asked to sing in the past that wind up on the songs that the acoustic karaoke guy can play. And a lot
Sing a horse, ride a cowboy, right?
Yeah, surprisingly not that one. But Before He Cheats or Mama's Broken Heart. Lot of
Achy Breaky Heart.
The Black Horse and a Cherry Tree. Like, a lot of those songs are like
Katie Lang, right? Is that Katie Lang?
Yeah. And those are good, but there's also sort of like an angry bend to those that is like, I don't really know if this works for the people who have requested country. Is this,
man? You gotta go eat at a Texas Roadhouse sometime.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Have you never? So for anybody that's not aware, Texas Roadhouse has actually overtaken Olive Garden and become the #1 go-to family restaurant in America right now.
They got better.
So
bread,
they are
I'll
like,
say that.
and they're popping up in a bunch of different places and things like that. And I'm not going to lie, my family has muchly contributed to that reputation, at least in this area. There's a Texas Roadhouse in town, and it's one of the few restaurant bars that are like in town. Otherwise, we got to go down to the city, fucking Utah. But anyway, so we've been there. We pop there after work for like a drink and some cheese fries, or like we'll go, and if we want to get out of the house to have dinner, that's a place that we'll go to, right? For anybody that's never been in a Texas Roadhouse, it's basically TGI Fridays, but for country music.
For cowboys.
Everything is cowboy themed and all that nonsense. But on top of that, there's like 5 different TVs, sometimes playing sports on 3 of them. 9 different TVs, sometimes playing sports on 3 of them. The other 6 are dedicated to country music videos, and Chive TV, because every bar has Chive TV nowadays. But that is like the whole vibe of that place. I have learned more about country music about current popular country music in the last 3 months than I ever had been introduced to before that. Yeah, man, just go park your ass at a Texas Roadhouse, get some of them delicious buns, and have yourself a drink and learn a thing or two.
First of all, it's not that. It's also the fact that the guy has to know the songs. He has to have performed the songs before.
Right.
Because I'm thinking like there are a couple of like current country songs that'd be good. I think like Could Have Been a Cowboy, Should Have Been a Cowboy would have been fine, right? But he doesn't know those songs. So
Roll Me Up and Smoke Me by Willie Nelson.
That's a good one. Doesn't know it. So Dayle goes up there and does Redneck Woman, because it's the only like semi-positive kind of like happy like country song that he has for a lady. And then I go up there and do Walking in Memphis, and that got them like on board. Like Redneck Woman, they're like, yeah, it's a little bit of country. And then Walking in Memphis got them there too. And then we've been threatening to do this for a while, but the problem is some of the people who are always there at acoustic karaoke tend to sing this song, so like we couldn't do it. But then we followed it up by getting up on the stage together and singing Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan. And that is when they all broke out and were feeling it. And that felt kind of nice. You're going to make the thing that we were the entertainment. That, like, broke their funk. And then they're up dancing, singing along. I don't remember the song that Dayle did after that, but I did. She did Royals by Lorde. And they were all singing along to that. She does a really good job on that song. And then I do Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. Because, like, once you got the crowd, you're like, you really got to test what you can fucking do with them. And that actually got one of them to come up and sing, was it Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks.
Nice.
And it was one of their groups singing the song. And that song has never been sadder to me than in that guy talking about, because, like, I got friends in low places. That night it felt like they were 6 feet under. And that ivory tower and the oasis felt like paradise or heaven or whatever you call your afterlife. It was a moment, like, it brought tears to my eyes to hear all of those people sing this song in memory of their fallen friend. So, yeah, it was an interesting evening. That was like, and then the next day it was like recovery from that, because we're out till like midnight and we'd just been performing, and then we had to be up anyway. And luckily I did have off Juneteenth, and then I took the day after it. So I've had some time to recover. The only other big cultural thing, I finished Leverage Redemption. God dang, was the third season incredible, because it was Parker's redemption. And honestly, I never thought that Parker would get a redemption story. But here we are. With Parker having, like, redeemed and understands why she does what she does, which is good. Which means that the fourth season should be for Elliot, but they have gone on record thousands of times Elliot will never get redemption. So I don't know what the fourth season of Leverage Redemption will be. And that's Dean Devlin and Christian Kane saying that the things that he does, he's not seeking redemption, because he knows that every day he's working to be better than the atrocities he's committed, but he will never earn full-on redemption. Like, he doesn't think he's owed it, and it would feel disingenuous for a guy who we all know what
chapter season would not be the worst, though. A darker middle chapter season would not be the worst to see. I think swing at, though. You know,
I think if they were going to do it, like, all the talk about he's not going to get redemption, I really thought this third season was going to be about Elliot's, like, try for redemption, and then that ultimate story being like, not everybody gets redemption the same way. Like, your redemption is the fact that every day you're seeking redemption, but you'll never attain it. You just hope that with the rest of your life, you've put more good into the world than the evil you did before Nate found you. But that's not what they did. Instead, they did a Parker season that was really, really good. So, talking about that. I finished Tracker after putting it on hold, watching the Mercy Seat episode, which was just like full-on torture porn in an episode of a CBS hour-long television procedural. That just, And I gotta say, the 17th episode of the season, the one that followed it, probably my favorite of the season. Because Randy was there, and it was, like, in person. But, and this is something for another day, right? Because we have a plan for this, and it's going to require
this is one of the NCIS spinoffs?
Tracker is its own thing.
I thought it got a backdoor pilot from some. What am I thinking of? I must be thinking of.
Are you thinking of Finders?
I might be thinking of Finder. Backdoor piloting on Bones.
Off of Bones? Yeah, it's just called Finder. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That might be what I'm thinking.
That's exactly what you're thinking of. Because that's one of the reasons why I watched Tracker. I'm like, oh, they're finally giving Finder another chance. But with Justin Hartley.
What's his power? He can find.
He could and Tracker. I mean, I have fun with Tracker because, like, he can't lie is this thing in the house that we believe that he's just incapable of lying. So it's really fun to watch him, like, how he sort of massages the truth. It's like, oh yeah, I told them that I lost my wallet and I needed to check the security cameras to see where it might have happened. Oh, and I found it, though. And it's like, but he had lost it briefly to himself. It's kind of fun, this whole he can't lie lean we've given to the character. And they did, I mean, it was a solid season. I'm ready to watch the third season, but they're suffering from the whole TV is too expensive to make while we have 100 people who are on contract. So I think they're cutting it down to only 3 leads, and the rest will all be guest stars. And you can see that in the series. Like Eric Grays, who plays Bobby, his original guy in the chair, who was replaced halfway through with Randy. He was gone for like 6 episodes, and then he came back, and then it swapped between Randy helping Coulter or Bobby helping Coulter, and it felt like that was trying to get people used to the fact that one week you're going to see Bobby, one week you're going to see Randy. And based on the stuff that happened in the season finale, the Randy episodes are going to be the episodes I hate, where we talk about Coulter's past. Because he's the only one who's aware that Coulter's looking for the man who killed his father. Don't let anybody else know about this, Randy. You got to see. And I'm like, damn it. That means that Randy's tied to all the bullshit stories. But it also tells me that the creative minds behind Tracker know that Coulter tries to find out about his shitty childhood episodes are weak. So we need to give you Randy as like the consolation prize. Yeah, it's just, the show's crazy. I do enjoy it, but that Mercy Seat episode was hard. Like watching a girl be choked out and then hung from a noose, like legitimately torture porn on just broadcast television, which is where we're getting. But to go back to episode 17 and research that we're going to have to do, we cannot just jump into it. I literally felt like I had already seen that particular episode of television. Now, I hadn't seen the 17th episode of Tracker, but I think that with everything that's happening for writers in Hollywood, scripts are being reused. Like, more so than just, similar themes. Like, straight up same locations, basically same discussions. It was scary. And that is what everything except for the finale episode of Tracker felt like.
Yeah, they're leaning into the formula in an intense way right now because it's safe in the formula. And like to the point where, like you're saying, it's not just, hey, this is this celebrity guest this week that is appearing here in the title. Like, I wonder who the bad guy is going to be on this week's episode of Law and Order. Like, it's one of those things where it gets even deeper than that. Where, like you're saying, you're like, okay, they basically aren't even. It's almost like a bottle episode at some point. You're like, these are all locations they've all used before, or you've seen other shows that film under the same company you've used before.
And it's the same plot too. Like, Randy's whole story was his ex-girlfriend had gone to a casino to help her other friend get over the guy she was seeing, and then that girl went missing. And that was an episode of Elsbeth. That was in an episode of The Rookie, and literally like the same conversation from Elsbeth when they went to the bar to try to get information about what happened, like word for word. It was.
Is it by chance any type of like rip from the headlines type story? Is there some story I'm not thinking of?
Like,
that happening?
That's one of the reasons why I
that
don't
happens
wanna,
a lot too.
And I understand that. That's why I'm not ready to like say right now all of these scripts are either written by the same IA, just putting the character names, or written by the same actual screenwriter, just putting the character names, and then like a little bit of adjustment.
AI? I just want to make sure.
Did I not say AI?
You said IA.
I did say IA, huh? Well, look at that. In internal affairs.
I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page, because I was like, what internal, what now?
Yeah, no. Intelligence artificial. It's I think it's artificial intelligence that's doing it. But I want to do the research. I want to see if maybe they are ripping from the headlines and all that. But like, and the fact that they're all CBS, so they're all being done like probably on the Paramount lot, because that has changed so much since the streaming wars have started, where like Paramount used to make shows for NBC, and then one of the reasons why those shows got canceled was not that they weren't popular, but NBC didn't want to pay Paramount extra money for stuff that they were making and making money on anyway. It's kind of what we're seeing with HBO Max and like what's happening with South Park and what's happening with The Big Bang Theory, is the fact that those are both owned by Paramount. So HBO Max, the reasons why people were coming to HBO Max was for another studio's content, so that studio was making money off of HBO Max, as HBO Max was losing money hand over fist. So, like, you can take all the tax breaks you want, but if you still have to output money to one of your competitors, that's not a good business plan.
Yeah.
So we're seeing some strange things go on there. But it's been nice, and I would hope to finish The Equalizer before this, but it's just been slow going. Some solid episodes of The Equalizer, though, after another one that was just, like, basically torture porn. Like, I don't want to see that type of stuff. Like, if I want to see that stuff, I will watch a movie, or I will watch something that is, like, a streaming exclusive. I'm not expecting it from your week-to-week CBS stuff. That I expect to be maybe a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit more fun.
I do have to wonder what the era of Hannibal and what was the Norman Bates one?
Bates Motel.
Bates Motel, right. I wonder if, because that era of broadcast television, I guess Bates Motel was A&E, but anyway, Hannibal specifically, I always think about this. They very much pushed the boundaries of what you could show in terms of violence and gore on TV at that time. I mean, it was a show about Hannibal Lecter, right, and chasing down other Hannibal Lecter style serial killers and stuff. So like it got gnarly. Like, that show famously gets extremely gnarly. And so, like, it pushed a lot of boundaries. And I feel like ever since then, I've noticed more and more shows willing to try exactly what you're talking about, like pushing those kind of comfortable, it makes you really uncomfortable. Like, it really makes your skin crawl. I don't know if Hannibal is really kind of like the match that lit the fire, but I feel like that's where the first place I truly noticed it,
I don't know. I think about something like The Following. The Following was one of those weird shows, the Kevin Bacon one, where he was hunting the serial killer who had, like, a cult devoted to him. And so many things in that were, like, it was the first threesome on television was part of that. Like, and that's Fox, too. And then some people get mad at me when I consider Fox one of the broadcast networks. And I'm like, well, it literally is over-the-air broadcast. But there's this outdated thing that it's not one of the big three, though. It's not ABC, CBS, or ABC, NBC, or CBS. I skipped it. I usually say it. So they don't count it. Like, Fox was always kind of like the dirty channel, and that's completely believable. Look at what it did to George Bush with The Simpsons. There's a reason why they have an episode where George Bush is living across the street and Homer's pissing him off every second of every day. Like, it's in retaliation for that. So I don't know. And it's like, again, it's not like NCIS is pretty good too. And like, all this propaganda, this copaganda that you see on television where cops are just killing people every single episode, like, I'm okay with that, but I'm not okay with, like, legitimate torture against women or things like that. Like, I guess it's not what I signed up for, because I love The Hunting Party. I absolutely love The Hunting Party, but I know that The Hunting Party is about them hunting serial killers. So, like, I'm expecting it from something like that. Ditto, like, The Following. I was expecting that type of stuff. I'm not expecting from, like, Tracker or The Equalizer to suddenly be watching an episode of Hannibal.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And again, it's not like I'm completely opposed to it. It's more, I have put myself in the mindset where I want to see Queen Latifah kicking ass with Lisa Lapira and Adam Goldberg. That's what I want. And then,
well, and to their credit, a lot of the times that is being used for exactly that. Is like, we're really going to get that. Like, this is going to make the audience uncomfortable. Like, that is the goal with including stuff like that. But as an audience member, if that's not what you want, that's not what you want, right? Like, then it makes it really hard to go back to those things. It's a risk to do that kind of stuff when you're creating those kinds of stories. But at the same time, I don't think that they are. I don't think it would surprise them to hear you say that this is how it made you feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, because art is supposed to make people uncomfortable. It's supposed to elicit a reaction. I understand that. But, like, that's not what I expected. And Tracker is another one where, like, for a bit there, it kind of turned into the X-Files with the whole aliens are real and Coulter died, and then straight out of Hellboy the Crooked Man, a Appalachian witch healer woman brought him back to life. And it's like, okay, that's cool, like, but now that's part of your world. It's what we were talking about with the Lilo and Stitch crossovers. Like, we understand that aliens exist in the world of Lilo and Stitch. Hell, we accept it. That's what the show's about. But when you bring Recess in, a fairly grounded in reality television show, like, it changes things.
It changes things, yeah.
Like, I have no problem with the Hercules Aladdin crossover episode. I actually think that's fantastic. Since Aladdin had Mechanicles as a villain, a proud Greek-like character, it made sense for eventually Jafar and Hades to team up with each other to try to deal with their problem. They basically do Strangers on a Train. Hades will deal with Aladdin if Jafar will deal with Hercules. And I like that too, because, like, canonically Jafar fucking dead at that point. And that doesn't bother me because they're both, like, Aladdin is about finding a magic genie from a talking tiger head in the middle of the frickin' desert. And Hercules, he's a goddamn demigod. Actually, in Hercules and Disney, he's a full-on god.
He's a full-on god,
magic potion that took away all but one drop of his strength because he didn't finish the magic potion. Also, I gotta clean this up. I gave credit to the wrong person for playing Panic in an episode a couple back. It's Matt Frewer who's Panic. Pain is got Bobcat Goldthwait, and then in Panic is actually played by Matt Frewer. I've been waiting for a time to make sense. Talking about the Hercules Aladdin crossover seemed like the time. I don't even remember who I said played it, but it was wrong. I gave the wrong name.
Well, there you go.
So now I feel a little bit better.
Not even this show, right?
No, I don't even think it was the show. I think it was the Shakes the Clown episode of the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe. But still, it's been weighing on me. So here we go.
Yeah.
All right, what about you? You did some cultural stuff that you want to share? I'm excited.
Two big things. One I did myself, and I want to talk about it. The other thing is something a little bit more outside of me, but it's important that I think we've mentioned that it's happening this weekend. The first being the me thing. I went to go see The Materialists this week.
Oh, the movie that everybody's
Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans.
Yeah. I don't love the marketing campaign of, like, rom-coms are back. But I do want to see the movie. I'm not going to lie.
I would. Yeah. The thing is, okay, I big compliments to this movie. Like, really, really enjoyed my time with it. It is a very deliberately even keel, slow burn of a film, and so it felt very classic. Like, it felt like a movie that you would have seen in, like, the 70s or even the 50s, down to freaking Pedro Pascal in a tux when he first shows up in the movie, looking straight up like Cary Grant. There were a couple of moments where I thought I was just looking at Cary Grant at the Oscars or something. It was wild. But I'm interested in the marketing, pushing it as a rom-com, because you're not the first person to mention it as a rom-com, and there's definitely some lighthearted comedy in it, but it's not a laugh-a-minute type of movie, right? Like, it's very much, it's like going to The Notebook or something. Like, it is a romantic film. It is would you call The Notebook a rom-com?
You know what's more important about whether I would not. I think that it's a romantic movie. I don't think it's a rom-com. But let's see, since I was already on IMDb looking up something else, what they classify it as. Because I also
wouldn't call it a drama, though, because there's no, there's
we're talking about The Materialist is not a drama.
The Materialist, The Materialist is not necessarily a drama either, because like there's about as much conflict as there is in like La La Land. Like it's this idea that like it's about people trying to figure out whether or not they can work together in a materialistic society, and it makes some very decent arguments about one thing versus another in that regard. Pedro Pascal playing this must be multi-billionaire. They never actually put a number on it, and I actually really appreciated that because it makes it a little bit more timeless. Because if they said multi-billionaire now and then in 2 years we've got a bunch of trillionaires, that makes no sense, right? But anyway, it's one of those things where they don't really mention it, but he's clearly got money, right? That's they address that. And then Chris Evans plays a failing actor, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about his career. He calls it that. He calls his career a failing career.
And so she's Captain America. He just hasn't had a hit since.
Yeah, but Dakota Johnson is then in this relationship with both of them, trying to figure out which one she truly loves and all of this, but it's a lot more interesting than that, because she openly, as a character, openly talks about things like, I don't think I'm in love with him. I think this is pretty much his money, and he knows that, and it's okay with both of them because of the ways in which they've kind of been treated by the world and things like. So it's got some really interesting things to say about just society and all that. End of the day, totally recommend it. Everybody in it is gorgeous and does really, really fantastic work on the screen. It is a beautifully shot film. We walked out of it and Tessa and I went to go see it together, and we looked at each other and were like, I don't think it was shot on film, but it felt like it was shot on film the entire time. Like it had just that look to it, that feel to it. Again, very classic. So just a good movie. So, excellent. Highly recommend.
And I would say, looking at IMDb, just for the shits and giggles of it all, the genres on Materialist in order are comedy romance, where The Notebook is something that is drama romance.
Yeah. So and to be fair, I think there's even more drama in The Notebook than there is in The Materialist. Like there are some crying moments in The Notebook for sure, right? And they're just not. It doesn't. The Materialist doesn't care to go there.
Where something like Sleepless in Seattle, because I was trying to remember the name of the film, that's where I started this whole thing, is comedy, drama, romance, and then An Affair to Remember, which I always kind of think of as like one of the first rom-coms when people bring up the subject, is drama romance. So this was interesting. I mean, it's certainly a film that I saw the trailer and I'm like, ooh, I want to see The Materialists, and I haven't had a chance this past week.
I mean, I recommend it. If you want to see some really good acting from people and see a movie that has some really interesting things to be rather blunt about, because it is openly very blunt about materialism and relationships, and she straight up has a moment where she is in a fight with Chris Evans and says, we hate each other because we're poor. It's not that we don't love each other. We hate each other because we are poor. And it's like this whole thing that is there are moments when money stuff is just so problematic in these situations that you can't overcome those no matter how much you care about each other. And we're very happy as a society to talk about love conquers all, but as somebody that has been in these positions where it's like, I've had relationships that have had to end because we ended up moving to different parts of the country, and there was no way we were going to be able to afford doing long distance relationships, and that sucks, right? And money was a factor, and that's just a shitty thing in the United States that I imagine people experience outside of, but I only have the experience with this economy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a believable thing. It is weirdly universal.
The one other thing that I want to give it credit for that I really enjoyed, Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal, as much as they are competing concepts within the movie, at no point do they ever have any beef between them. They're actually, I think there's only 2 scenes in the movie that they end up in together. Beyond that, it's not about them fighting with each other over her. She is not a prize to be won between them. It is just that she is just struggling with deciding between where she wants to go in her life, and it's interesting. It's got a pretty big trigger warning for the end of Act 2. There is some sexual assault stuff that happens in the plot line that is addressed and then becomes insanely plot significant for the third act, but just as a heads up for anybody interested in seeing it.
It's appreciated. I was gonna just say before the trigger warning, so there's no scene where Billy Zane hits Dakota Johnson because she wants to be with Leonardo DiCaprio. That doesn't happen.
No, Dakota Johnson is an observer to an event in the movie, and I don't want to give too much away. For anybody that knows the plot line, the big fake Hollywood job that she's got, and this one is she works for a high end matchmaking company. And so some stuff happens at the firm, and it just kind of spirals. And I I can say that they handle it well. It's an interesting story and plot line. But yeah, if that's something that gives you the ick, then that might be something to just know before you see it.
Yeah, again, especially since we were just talking about, I'm going for this rom-com because it's been marketed as this rom-com. Holy fuck, what the shit is this?
Yeah, I kept thinking the entire time, man, this movie's really eating Blake Lively's soup. Like that entire Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively movie about marketing and her having that huge faux pas telling everybody that it was a rom-com when really it was about abuse, dating, domestic violence and stuff was just a real kick in the gut to that film. But it still ended up doing pretty well. And then I'm watching this movie and I'm just like, yeah, I wasn't warned about this either. But also this is handling this a lot better than what I understand that movie does. So I don't know.
Yeah, that was weird. It ends with us and the way that whole thing, that was, I'm like, what are you talking about? The greatest romance of the year. I'm like, isn't that book known for opening up conversations about domestic abuse? What are you fucking talking about? Glad to know I wasn't the only one who felt that way. Thank you, Sejohn.
Yeah. So the other big thing that happened this week that I have found myself diving into, I have fallen down the rabbit hole of the new Five Nights at Freddy's game came out this week, and YouTube right now, or at least my YouTube, is ablaze with all these different people playing it. Twitch, I've got a bunch of people that have been diving in and trying to pull it apart. 6-hour theory videos going on and things like that. And so it's been really interesting. I've gotten my hands on it. The Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. It's so far removed from Five Nights at Freddy's, and I think it's this really interesting thing that the company that's handling it now is doing. Their name is Steel Wool, if anybody doesn't remember. And they've done the last 4 mainline games, I think. They started with the VR game Help Wanted, and then they did Security Breach, and then they did Help Wanted 2, and now this is their 4th one. And with each one, they are getting further and further and further away from the original property, which I think is smart considering what happened with some of the controversy with it. Plus, also, it was very of its moment. I don't know if you could ride the coattails of that same story as long as they've been able to, because I think the evolution has really helped them. And this new one has got some really interesting gameplay and some really interesting story stuff and some really interesting looks to it and some really good music. The new game is pretty interesting. But the big reason why I think it's important is that there was a time where whatever way Five Nights at Freddy's went, so went YouTube. There was a time where there was entire rule changes and content changes and things that were updated, all reflecting the ways that people were playing that game specifically back in the early 2010s. What were the legal implications of YouTube showing people playing through entire games and stuff? Five Nights at Freddy's was one of those first games that got in on all that stuff. And so watching a bunch of YouTubers really jump in, and we had mentioned, I think, on last episode or the episode before, how weird it seems that people seem to feel the need to. Oh, we were talking about Mario Kart World. About feeling the need to stream the entire game day one, that need being part of a channel's existence now. The number of gaming YouTubers that I watch, and I do mainly watch a lot of horror gaming YouTubers because they're just funny to me. That they felt the need that we need to have this out there, the entire thing. So they one of the streamers that I watched literally spent 7 hours playing the game first day so that they could get everything and talk about everything, because it's such an integral part of their channel that it was if they're not doing this, someone's going to come in and eat their lunch. Eat their lunch. Although, interestingly, one of the original big Five Nights at Freddy's YouTubers was Markiplier, and he actually waited like a week to actually start posting his own videos, and now they've been going up, and they've been, of course, doing gangbusters. That dude puts a video up, and it hits like 1.5 million views on in its sleep. But watching how much that particular trend, that need has kind of come into this, and I think it's because, like, at least in this story in particular, in this game in particular, in this horror genre, the big thing is the community buy-in to the theories and the stories and the fan fiction and the art that gets made and all of that stuff. And there's so much built into the community stuff. It's what made the whole thing with Scott Cawthorn kind of, when everybody discovered that he was a right-wing douchebag that like was donating to shitty charities, that like, it's what hurts so much because there was such a community connection between them, right? That it felt like a personal attack when people found that stuff out. And like, YouTube is just trying, I mean, these artists on YouTube, these creators on YouTube are just trying to really front load so much of these games now, and it's a bit of a bummer because it really reminds me of the stuff that we talk about with movies, where like, if they don't do well in their first week, now people talk about them like they're failures, and that sucks because like with games, that's doubly sucky because games take time, and games are a lot more of a buy-in. Not everybody has $40, $50, $60 to throw at a game right now, $80 to throw at a game right now,
90, like,
yeah. There's just like, there's all of this stuff that people are like feeling this need to just kind of get in right at the get-go, and I don't know, man, it's just burning me out a little bit.
I mean, I get that. I mean, on the same thing, we had the great reveal of Donkey Kong Bonanza this week. I don't know if you watched the Direct.
Yeah, the Nintendo Direct about specifically Donkey Kong Bonanza, right?
And I am very excited I was already excited about the game. And like, in spite of myself, I'm like, I'm feeling such a way about the Nintendo Switch 2. And the fact that I kind of feel like at this time I've wasted my money. And seeing that, and like, this is the next game we got coming, and like, oh shit, I am on board for this. This looks like the reason I bought the Nintendo Switch 2. Nothing against Mario Kart World. I've enjoyed it. Also, the big headline this week is the confirmation of adaptive AI. So it's not so much rubber banding anymore like it used to be in the Mario Kart games. It's if you're playing well, the rest of the people start to play well. So that's why you have those moments where like, oh, I'm going to get first place, and then Boo shows up from some shortcut you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, well, man, that's fine. That stuff, I think, in game for personal experience is going to be fine. Oh, yeah. The bigger thing is that people are going to figure out how to screw up that system and like cheat that system, just like they figured out that you could use the rewinds in order to get like crazy ass time trial times. But it reminds me of when we were talking about the early days of the Resident Evil remakes, Resident Evil 2, and about how they introduced adaptive AI, and so the better that you were, the harder that it got later on, right? With headshots in particular. And so you would see speedrunners and shit like that, like, take moments to like unload a clip into a wall so that like the AI wouldn't get any harder, right?
Yeah, it was taking the time to do things. Like, it was built into those speedruns, those moments where you would kind of dumb the game down. Like, all right, now I'm going to deliberately miss 4 shots, and that'll make the AI adaptive setting go down 1 tier so that I can do this next shot as fast as possible. And I mean, like, let's already talk about Mario Kart World. People are sandbagging. Like, that is the biggest issue that we're having with Mario Kart World, is people are sitting in the middle or even like lower than the middle. And then the third lap, when they've got, 6 freaking mushrooms, they just rocket to first place. Like, it is just, it's ridiculous. I watched someone go from 19th place to first place. That was the video where I'm like, okay, good. These ways that I'm feeling that the game is kind of bullshit, They're not just me being upset with being bad at the game. And then the weird thing about adaptive AI is, the game's only good because of how good I am. Well, fuck me. Like, that's why I breezed to 3 stars in all the other 150 cups. And now in the final 150 cup, I'm having such difficulty because the game thinks I'm the best person ever. And it needs to pull out all the spots.
Knowing that, really, I don't know how I feel about them like holding back on like being open about this, because knowing that you could have really restructured your attempt at that with doing some harder courses first before the AI got really shitty on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a heck of a reveal. Like, yeah, no, it's definitely an adaptive AI in there. Yeah. If you do drift a lot, do a ton of ground tricks, the CPU's rubber band harder to keep up. But if you just drive normal, then they're not going to do that. Like, that's the big thing about it. I don't know. It's very strange. And again, that type of AI does not bother me, right? That's not open language AI. That's not taking jobs from people. That's a way to make a game more difficult. But also, if it's going to start to play perfectly because I'm playing better, how am I supposed to beat the machine? Right? Like, I just feel like Kasparov right now. And I know that it's about Mario Kart.
I have long been a proponent of the idea that after a few hours, or after a certain amount of time of the game, right, depending on how big the game is, but like I would say after about 60 or 70% of a game, if I am not starting to feel OP in some way, it's a bit of a bummer. Like, by the time I get to the end of a game, I like to feel like I am fucking unstoppable. And like, I'm not saying that the final boss should be a breeze. Like, that should also then be a fight that I'm really proud I can win. But like, there's something about that. Like, I want to, at some point, I want to fucking own the road. I want to be a badass. And like, it's situations like this that make it, in a horror game like Resident Evil that used adaptive AI, like, I get why you want to do that, because you want people to be afraid, and you can't be afraid if you've got a fucking RPG the entire time, like you do in your third run of that game instead. But in Mario Kart, like, at some point, I want to be getting good enough and honing my skill well enough that I know I can at least beat the shit out of the AI. I also want to be able to then get online, but like, I want to beat the game I own.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where that is a hard, because Mario Kart, by its very nature, by the very nature of the rubber banding that exists in the game, you never really got to that overpowered state. Like, it's
but there was definitely a plateau that the AI would hit that you would get past, and you knew how to do things a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Like, there were shortcuts that you would take that not all the AI would take, or there were techniques and talents that you would use, and drifting and things like that you would do that the AI wouldn't always do. But if it's going to learn to do those things too, like, it feels like it's a little bit of that get good attitude sneaking in, and I don't like that. I don't want that from my Mario Kart game.
That's not even it, because the beauty of the get good mindset is that the more you play the game, the better you're going to get. The game itself does not react to you. It is trial and error, and then through that trial and error, you eventually get better at the game and get good. Now, get good is very toxic. It's very gatekeepery. But there is some, like, that's how gaming used to be. In the era of Nintendo Hard, right? The game was hard until you'd played it enough to learn the little intricacies and ways to be better than the game. And adaptive AI kind of takes that away. It's sort of the other direction from the get good mentality. It's completely opposite to your whole, I want to feel overpowered in this game world eventually. Because if the game's only going to get better, the better I get. And sometimes I think that there's things that could work. I think that, God, we've never talked about this game because I think we were both just against it from the start. But the Lord of the Rings games, the Middle Earth ones, I can't remember the names of them, but that introduced...
Mordor and
Was
and
it?
all that.
What's one?
The Shadow of
Shadows
Mordor
of
and all
Mordor,
that.
yeah. Where they introduced
Yeah.
the Nemesis system. Now that I like. That is one character or a handful of characters in the game who are getting better every time that they fight me. Now I like that, right?
Well,
That
specifically kill you
Right.
if you because if you kill them, they are taken off the board forever. So that's the other thing is that if they do get better, right, because they kill you 3, 4, 5 times, like they inevitably do to me every time I try and play those games, it like they get really OP, but you take them out, that's it. They're gone. They don't come back as that. Other ones come up and rise up and take their place, but they're never going to be that one again. And that so there's a real sense of like there of accomplishment and prize, and it doesn't feel like a punishment. You know what I mean? Whereas like it sounds like what you're describing in Mario Kart World, it feels like it's punishing you for being good at the game.
like it's gotten to the fact where like Dayle and I both like we're gonna go play some Mario Kart World, and she's the bigger one for this because she's like all I wanted to do is play Mario Kart World. It's literally all she wanted to do once we got the Switch 2. Plans that we had were broken because she's like I'd rather just stay home and play Mario Kart, and I get that it's a brand new shiny game, and it was right out of the box. It was exciting, and now she's like I can barely do 2 races back to back because I can't get 2 victories back to back anymore. And it doesn't feel like it's because I'm doing anything different. The game itself just feels cheap. It feels like, oh, I just got 3 red shells. Oh, there's a blue shell. There's lightning. Like it just feels like the game itself has adapted to how she plays, and now she's having a difficult time with the game. And I feel bad for her, but I get it. Because the fact that I can't sit down and win 2 races in a row in this effort to try to get 3 stars on all of the 150 like Grand Prix, like that sucks. Like it legitimately sucks. And then watching people who are speed running like knockout mode, and the fact that all they're doing is driving straight. They're very rarely using tricks or drifting. Like, yeah, you'd have to in order to maintain that lead. Like, I just don't know. I don't know. It's very strange. But that said, Donkey Kong Bonanza looks incredible, and they've revealed some cool stuff about the plot of the game and characters of the game. And dear God, I am super excited for July 17th now. and that's
in the arms because they're trying to figure out where it falls in the Mario timeline now, and it's like, calm down.
Yeah, it's crazy, all of the discussion of how does this fit into the timeline, but like Pauline is canonically 13 years old in the game. I wasn't going to say her name, and then here I am saying Pauline is 13 years old. Look what you did to me, Siege.
Yeah, interesting covers, but yeah. But
maybe it's Pauline's daughter, Pauline. I guess 2 other things I want to do, a couple of gaming accomplishments, is the fact that I finally got all S ranks in Nintendo World Championship NES edition. 3 weeks before that game turns a year old. I got all my S ranks.
Your jacket.
I can't wait to get my jacket. I got a pin that shows that I got all S rank now. Which makes me happy, but I'm not going to not use my Super Mario Bros. 2 Japan pin because I love the lost levels and I want people to know that. But so I finally did it, and that's because in the weekly challenges came the Kid Icarus one to complete the first labyrinth, and my own personal thing. And then, we're going to talk about this. This is going to spiral into a little bit more about Mario Kart World. Sorry. Is the fact that I always want to get an S ranking in the 5 challenges that they give me. And of the 8 challenges I did not have S rankings in yet, that Kid Icarus complete the first labyrinth of the game as fast as possible felt like it was going to be my Everest. Like, I'm never going to do this. I've beaten Kid Icarus. I'm happy to say that. But it's one of those games that, like, is difficult. And I have no desire in learning how to do it quickly. And that's just me. I'll admit that that's me. But then when it came up as like, you have to get an S rank because of your crazy Devon rules, I got that S rank, and I'm like, you know what? If I can get that S rank, I can get all the other ones. And within an hour, I had gotten the 7 remaining. And it felt pretty good, I'm not going to lie. And it makes me wonder, and this is how they could revive Mario Kart World, weekly challenges. Because right now, unless you got friends who are playing the game, you're not really getting that excitement of a weekly challenge. You don't have a reason to go back to the game. And I have some friends who told me they got them, so I'm going to have people to play with, and I'm excited about that. But there should be something that, as a single player, changes weekly that brings you back to this. Because if there was a weekly, like, Grand Prix, and it was set up of just, like, 4 random tracks, maybe with some sort of theme, I would do whatever necessary to make sure I got the gold in that before the end of it.
Yeah.
And you can do it either single player or you can do it as an online event. And I think that would be wonderful. And I think it would be a way, like so many things, and I know that like part of what I'm talking about is a negative aspect of gaming. That they do whatever they can to get you playing every day, right? So that you need it. But so many people I know, I read all these articles of people like, well, I had my fun with Mario Kart World. Now the Switch 2 will go away until the next game that I will play obsessively until I'm done with that game. And that's not fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We play our Switches pretty much daily here, and since we could play Switch games on a Switch 2, we're probably going to trade one of them in for it. Uh-huh. Still waiting. You know, we're still thinking that it's probably going to be in the September, August time when we probably finally invest in one. Maybe wait until November and see if anything happens with like Cyber Monday or something. But we're pretty settled on the fact that we're probably going to trade in one of the family Switches to get the Switch 2, knowing that we can still play all the games on it. And considering how often we use the Switch 2, considering how often we use the Switch, I imagine the Switch 2 will just get used just as much in that regard. You know, like, I understand saying, like, hey, there's not a lot of Switch 2 stuff going on right now, but, like, we can't ignore that there's a huge decent built-in use case for it outside of this new Switch 2 games.
Right. But then I guess where I take a little bit of umbrage with that, right, and then maybe I have one other thing to talk about, and then we'll go on to the actual theme of this episode, is that a lot of the games that are getting, like, upgrades, you have to pay to take advantage of those. I know a bunch of them have had, like, we've released this that makes it more stable. Pokemon. I'm going to look into Pokemon during this time where you're traveling. We're not releasing an episode. So the next episode...
But you don't need to buy the upgrades in order to play them on the Switch too, right? You can just play the Switch version.
I don't know. This is, you know what? This is all the labbing that I'm going to do. In the time that we're away, right? Like, we excuse absence, I'm going to put my Switch 2 through its fucking paces. I'm going to complete either. Sejohn, you get to choose right now. First answer. Do we want me to beat Mario and Luigi Brothership or Thousand Year Door on my Switch 2?
Oh, Thousand Year Door. It's the much better game. Just play that on your Switch 2.
Okay, so I'm going to play that on my Switch 2. That is going to be a thing. By the next time we're here, I hope to be a little bit through that, and I can talk about it. But I'm also going to experiment. Maybe I'll finally make Claude happy, right? Apologies to Claude again. I still haven't played Tears of the Kingdom on my Switch 2. But I do want to look into that. Because you're not wrong. But a lot of those ones that just had upgrades that were part of it are not really games that I want to go back to. Like, and that's the weird thing about it. Like Pokemon Violet, I bought both of them at the same time because I got both games for the price of one. That was an insane deal that Dayle and I found on Scarlet and Violet on release date. It was worth it. And now that they apparently run much better on the Switch 2, I want to beat Violet because I've only ever beaten Scarlet, and the same for Dayle. So we'll start that, and then in my spare time, I'll do Thousand Year Door. And I like this plan, and then we'll come back with more Switch 2 information for the people. The final thing I have to say is, everybody who listens to the Say Report, you are free. I have collected all of the achievements in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate, not only on my Steam Deck, but on my PlayStation. And we're not going to talk about it until the DLC that they keep threatening to release, when they finally release a physical edition I think in August is what they keep talking about. But I am going to say this before we talk about this game in 2 months from now. I'm real pissed off that I have nothing to spend my Dragon coins and my Dreamer coins on now that I have opened everything up. Like, it bothers me. I'm gonna be honest. They need to come up with something more to use with those. Because I have 10,000 Dragon coins and 30,000 Dreamer coins. And what is that, like, oh, I get to tell people I have that and there's like a badge of... No, it just means I played the game a lot since I've unlocked all of the upgrades.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So I'm happy I did. I'm happy I got that platinum. I really do like the game. It's just I'm gonna take like my whole thing this like since I was off Thursday. I'm like I'm going to before we record the show platinum Splintered Fate, and then I'll get to put it aside and do something fun. And I did it, and I can't believe I did it. Oh, also, talking about, you had mentioned about feeling overpowered in games and how good that is. Dayle and I made good on our promise to do Pampus and Celine every Juneteenth. This time I was Celine, she was Pampus. We are through 5 of the 10 Demon Realms. Because we've done other things and also in celebration, but hopefully we want to beat it before the weekend is over, and we're on real good pace for that. And first of all, I forgot how good that game is. I recommend Pampus and Celine to everybody. I think it's $10 on Nintendo Switch right now. So if you're somebody who's got a Switch 2 and you're looking for a pretty solid game to play, Pampus and Celine. And even though Dayle and I have only exclusively played it in co-op, the game is so not built for co-op, which is fucking insane to me. And I don't know how to feel about that, because there's like things where like, yeah, here you would switch to the other person, but here we are together, and it's like, well, good luck, guy who dies if he hits the water. So actually,
there's no Super Mario World like bubbling system where you can just like put yourself in a safety bubble and follow the other person.
No, that's actually
such a pain in the ass.
I like that about the game. I really do like that about the game. I mean, fairly early on, you get the ability to warp from anywhere. So if you to the start of the game. And that's nice. So if you find yourself in a situation like you're drowning as Pampus, because he can barely move and cannot jump while underwater, which makes sense because he's wearing heavy armor, you can warp to the beginning of the game and try to avoid dying, which is nice.
Yeah.
But the best part about Pampus and Celine, I talked about it before, in co-op, you are able to do whatever the fuck you want to do. You do not have to be on the same screen. You do not have to be in the same demon realms. You are able to play the game cooperatively in the truest sense of the word. Where, like, the third dungeon, which is, Moak's realm, because you fight a big, like, Easter Island head, that level is built for Celine's ability. She has an ability where if she hits like spikes, it draws them to her, and that's all the level is. It's to force you to play as Celine. If so far you've only been playing as the male character who uses a sword and a bow and arrow. It sucks that games still have to do that stuff. I'm going to admit that right here. But like the design philosophy very much feels like this is the level you're meant to do as Celine. Which is cool. I enjoy that. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. So, that, when I was in there, is like, it's stupid for you to come in here, Dayle. You cannot move as Pampus here. So, go explore the castle and find some other areas. Find some other quests for us to do while I clear this dungeon. And then once I get to the boss, you can summon the person to you specifically in boss rooms. So, we just did that. And it felt great because then when we were done, it's like, all right, cool. So we beat that. Let's go deal with the stuff you found while I was doing all the platforming not designed for your character. Like,
that's cool. At least that they don't force you down that path. If you can't go under the water, then don't go that way.
Yeah,
that's good.
So it is like the greatest type of, and it's the type of stuff like Borderlands is able to do that too. And I like that. I like that in Borderlands, you can be on the east side of the map. I can be on the west side of the map. I'm very excited for Borderlands 4. I hate you, Sejohn, but I am excited for it.
I think it's going to be a blast. Also, we might be able to get a group of like 4 of us together to play it too.
That'd be very exciting.
Because I got some friends that are super into it, which
Yeah,
would
cool.
be awesome. But yeah.
But yeah, so it is. So I like that. But I guess the only issue with Pampers and Celine is that it's only local co-op. Like, if it had online co-op, the game would be like 10 out of 10. It'd be an 11 out of 10. The game is just, it's so well built. The challenges are so engaging. I loved the thing. And it's like technically a sequel to a game from the 90s, Maze of Gallius. And it's like, you don't even need to know that in order to play and enjoy this game. And that. And we're getting to the part where, like, eventually Celine gets an ability, and you don't realize how important this is, where she can move and attack at the same time. And, like, she's, like, becomes an overpowered little, like little death machine when she can finally move and attack at the same time. You don't realize how important that is until it's been taken away from you.
Interesting stuff, man.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think, yeah, so now it's time for what we promised people that this episode was going to be. And for this, I pass all host duties to Sejohn Sarowick. What are we doing, Sejohn?
Yeah, so we're doing another Say-mmer Jams collection that we're going to be talking about here in the episode, and then we'll make sure to post it. We did Spotify last time, right?
Yeah,
That's where we put it
Spotify
up?
is where we put it together. Which,
Yeah.
part of my complaints, but we'll get to that part of this.
But yeah, so we're gonna go back and forth here with a few songs that we think we're gonna be listening to a lot this summer. But specifically, I wanted us to do just to mix things up a little bit, something that I'm calling Say-mmer nights. These are gonna be those songs that you listen to just as the sun starts to go down, and like when you're out and about in the middle of the night, and you can hear, crickets and all sorts of wildlife taking over your backyard, but you're just chilling out, maybe around a fire, or maybe just for me, looking out over the city down from the mountains, and it's there's something about that particular attitude, that particular time, that particular moment of the day that I think is just. It makes you kind of feel like you can get away with anything, right? Like nobody expects anything of you that time of night. Nobody thinks that you're responsible for anything at that moment. So you're really free,
I'm so happy. First of all, before we go any further, those Say-mmer nights. If I didn't get it out, Sejohn, I'd be fighting it the entire time. Also, the hardest part, 1, 2, 3, 4, about this theme was trying to figure out what summer nights means. So I did some polling people, what do you think a summer night song is? And I've had a blast. I also worked through some complicated feelings I've been having about the summer and Devon Decker. So this is going to be an interesting time. But to hear you describe it, I think I nailed it with the 5 songs that I have chosen for Say-mmer nights. So,
nice.
So I get you're in the lead. So however you want to do this.
So I am. So my album, and we're gonna mix these together. So keeping in mind that there was gonna be other steps coming in. Mm-hmm. I've structured mine though with a nice little hard punch at the beginning, and then keeping the party going for a little bit, then starting to kind of chill out. One last kind of hurrah at the end, and then finally, the outro, right? So with that kind of mapping in mind, my first song for summer nights, if I'm just getting ready to sit down outside with a beer in my hand and my friends hanging out, "Hold the Line" by Toto.
I fucking love you. That's such a good song. I do. It is one of those songs that I have Devon Decker lyricsing in there. The first "Hold the Line," I say those are lies. Love isn't always on time. Hold the line. I know it's just hold the line twice, but it's really nice. It just is how I do it. That's a great song. Also getting a little yacht rocky, and I like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see why I like that as the list goes on and on. So
Well, what do you got for yours, Dev?
So my kickoff song, knowing that it would probably end up being the second song, but still loving a little bit of continuity when I make a playlist like this, picking up exactly where we left off on Say-mmer Jams 2024. I started with If You're Wondering If I Want You To, I Want You To by Weezer. Now, I have to admit to you, this song represents the summer to me for so many reasons. But one of them is that an important moment in a young man's life happened for me the first time on June 22nd. The day that we are recording this episode. 15 years ago, to the day, Devon became a man. And playing in the background when that occurred was If You're Wondering If I Want You To, I Want You To by Weezer. So there's this weird connection to the beginning of summer with this song. I know that the 21st is the first full day of summer, but I hadn't gone to bed yet when it became the 22nd. So I'll say that. It was also 2010. I was working at sea. I was working for Carnival, and I had been on the ship for a month, and that's how I chose to celebrate. Finally, there's the fact that the song itself talks about summer love. The rest of the summer was the best we ever had. I saw you smiling on the lake that night. And it's very reminiscent of sort of the New England sort of summer experience that you can have. I know that I could be at the beach in half an hour, right? I could be on a beach at the ocean in half an hour, but I also kind of live out in the sticks a little bit. So going to lakes or going to community pools or going to bonfires, that's just as much a part of the summer experience for me. And that is what this song has always felt like. Plus, one of my summer jobs was Best Buy. So I'm doing the one off of Ratitude, but if I had my druthers, I would have done the version that makes this song a duet between Rivers Como and Sarah Bareilles, because I love when a song that is initially one point of view suddenly becomes two people's point of view. But yeah.
What
was that?
Why not that version then?
Well, because that version's not on Spotify. If that version were on Spotify, you better believe that's what I would have put. But since it's not, I will definitely put the YouTube video of them singing it together will be available in supplemental material alongside all of this. But yeah, starting things off.
I've definitely noticed Spotify had done some cleanup over the years, over the recent years, to get rid of a lot of fan uploaded unlicensed versions of things. They're still pretty rotten with AI music and shit like that, so they're not perfect, but it's a shame that we lose things like that. But I'm sure that if it's not official release from the band allowed to be on Spotify, that's probably why it's not up there.
So that version is off of, they did the same cover art for Ratitude but as Happy Record Store Day. I don't even remember when Ratitude came out. Maybe 2009 that album came out. But they specifically for Record Store Day. And the version that's on that Happy Record Store Day album is the duet. But then also come to find out that AOL, I think, technically owns that version. And then we're talking about Time Warner. We're talking about David Zaslav. Yeah. By deleting the duet version from Spotify, they're able to save $15 million somehow. So it does kind of stink, but it does make it fun, and it would be the one I used, especially since I knew it was going to be in the number 2 slot. But
speaking of duets,
let's do it.
So kind of keeping with the vibe of a little bit poppier, a little bit kind of still moving, a little bit more energized still. I've got Wolves by Selena Gomez and Marshmello.
Nice.
It is.
Very nice.
There's something. It's a karaoke favorite of mine. It is it's a song that gets people dancing. It's a song that I think the first time I heard it, I was literally like on at a beach party, like when it played, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and it was in Texas. We were sitting around a fire that we had dug into the ground, and we were chilling out, and it came on the speaker, and it was a good time. It was just a good moment of like staring up at the stars. I was a little altered in many ways, and like listening to some chill poppier music. But yeah, so Wolves by Selena Gomez is my next one on that list.
Excellent. I am going. As soon as Sejohn said Say-mmer Nights was going to be the theme, I started thinking about it. And I have about a month's worth of Jeopardy I've been trying to work through. And a question on Jeopardy was reggae songs that always get people on the dance floor. And it introduced me to my second song, which is Rum and Red Bull by Beanie Man, Future Fambo, and Sean Nizzle. It is that totally like we are having fun. It's got the island vibes. Again, I think of the islands when I think of summer. That's how I usually kick it off, is with a trip to them. That's really good. And I love this song. And what I really love is when Jeopardy gets their ass handed to them. And there was a huge outcry that they referred to this song as reggae when it's clearly in the genre of dance hall. I just really liked it. And it's like my new song, right? All these other songs are songs that I've heard or I think about when it comes to summer. So this is my new contribution to it. Also, I went out and got a Red Bull and mixed it with some rum before the show started. I'm going to try it right now.
I'm excited to hear how gross this is. Oh, man.
Well, that's delightful.
Nice.
Gosling's Dark Rum, a little bit of blue raspberry flavoring, and Red Bull. It's not bad. They work together really well. The aftertaste of the Red Bull and the aftertaste of a dark rum. I get it. I'm on my rum and Red Bull again.
All right.
I'm
pulling an audible for my next. I'm pulling an audible for my next one because you said island vibes, but like some chiller, beachier, darker island vibes. So I'm actually going to pull out something really from nowhere by a group called Little Stranger. Hold on, and they very specifically what they've been doing. Oh, do we want to go there? Yeah, what the fuck? We'll go there.
It's our show.
So very specifically, Little Stranger has, I think, 3 of these albums. But Sugar Shack, which is a venue in, I want to say, Southern California, that is very weed friendly, very booze friendly. They've got an outdoor venue where basically people could just sit around and just get, just tanked and like listen to just the chillest acoustic versions of a lot of like chill hop artists and rap artists, but like not like hard rap, no gangster rap or anything like that. And that's kind of the vibe that they go for. Little Stranger has got 3 albums recorded there live at the Sugar Shack, and they're amazing. All of them are amazing. But I am going to put here the Clint Eastwood, the cover that they do of the Gorillaz, and there's a little bit of a surprise in the second half of that song, but I'm gonna save that for people to find out to discover for themselves. But mainly, it's really really cool. It is a live version, but for people that are not like big on that, the Sugar Shack sessions, the recordings that they do are some of the cleanest live recordings I've ever heard. It is honestly, I like Little Stranger a lot, and if I was to tell anybody to listen to them, these are the albums I would point them to, not even their actual studio released albums. I would say just listen to the Sugar Shack sessions.
I know that I have had 3 sips of rum and Red Bull. My brother, you literally just told people to do that.
but what I'm saying is I would do this over their studio albums. I would say like their studio albums are fun, but like this is the version of them that I suggest people should listen to. But Clint Eastwood by them live at the Sugar Shack by Little Stranger.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now it's time for the trivia portion of the Say Report Say-mmer Night Jams 2025. Sejohn, do you recall the name of John Cusack's character in One Crazy Summer?
Is it not just John?
No, it's not just John.
Does
he not just play a character named
No,
John in that
I
movie?
don't remember. Well, I heard he's big in basketball. Is it like hoops or something like that?
His name is Hoops McCain.
Yeah, it's hoops. Yeah, that's the first place I'd ever heard the name hoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, that name comes from my third song. Keeping with the yacht rock of it all, but definitely a bigger studio sound. It is the third track off of Gaucho by Steely Dan, Glamour Profession, which is a song about the Showtime Lakers. But it is included here because, first of all, it's my third song and it's the third track off the album. And then I hope it is. God, I didn't even check that. I just have the memories of it. But then the fact that One Crazy Summer, we just talked about in the Jaws episode, how One Crazy Summer is another movie that means a lot to us, having grown up in New England and all of the ways that they sort of lampoon Jaws for a film that came out in 1986. And I love that Savage Steve Holland took the character of Hoops McCain from this Steely Dan song and was like, that's a good name for the character in my movie, who'll be played by John Cusack in this slant sequel to Better Off Dead.
Spiritual sequel, as it were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't watch Better Off Dead anymore because I just found out that the gross neighbor boy is Dan Foot Fetish. I can't remember his last name. Schneider.
Not the guy that's like... No. The other guy that she's supposed to get married to, or
the one that the mom specifically gets a French foreign exchange student because they'll be living together, and it'll make it easier for you to start dating her. That's Dan Schneider. And I used to love Better Off Dead. And it's a great movie. I mean, everybody else is good, but I have some complicated feelings about watching it, or specifically recommending that people watch it.
Besides, One Crazy Summer, you get Bobcat Goldthwait, you get Snot there. What's his name?
Curtis Armstrong.
Yeah, Curtis Armstrong.
You get Joel Murray.
You get some good pulls in
You
that
got Demi Moore. One Crazy Summer is a great movie. So it's like, Glamour Profession, listen to it. It's a perfect song for, I think, where we are in this album that we're creating right here.
I'm gonna give you a really good follow-up to Steely Dan in Fleetwood Mac's The Chain.
Oh, I love it. Are you gonna be drinking some ocean spray while we're listening to that?
Oh man.
Oh, excellent. But that's excellent. No, so that's that. No story behind it. Just The Chain, Fleetwood Mac.
I think that I included Fleetwood Mac Rumors specifically the last time we did this, and my feelings about that album have not changed. I fucking love that album. The Chain is just... I mean, there's so many songs to pick off of that album, but the reason that one gets thrown in here is legitimately following up Steely Dan with, like, it feels like we're still in that era, right?
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Which I guess I feel a little strange about my next one now. No, not really. I absolutely love this song. I love the entire album. But if I'm going to take one song from it, it actually was hard, right? Because I talked to people about Summer Nights. What's a good Summer Night song? And another track off this album kept coming up. But then I went with Paradise by the Dashboard Light from Bat Out of Hell.
Nice.
Because there's some great stuff in it. But also, that time in the summer where at 1 a.m. we left Der Daily Haas to go to the Westerly Walmart so I could buy my Unicron action figure. Because, like, for some reason, the Westerly Walmart, the first 24-hour Walmart in Rhode Island, had, in 2005, Unicron figures still on the shelf. I don't know why. And a friend who like went down to Matunic was like, oh yeah, we stopped at I saw one of them Unicron figures you're looking for. And it was, all right, we're getting in the car, we're going to go buy it. And that night we went and we bought that Unicron figure. We also brought white bread and sandwich stuff, and we had sandwiches on the beach at night, and it was wonderful. But then I had just gotten my license, and then whether you're a longtime listener of the show or you just happen to know me, I had a complicated relationship with speeding that first year I got my license. Historically, I tell people I got pulled over once a month that first year I had my license, which ultimately culminated in me losing it the next summer. This song, Paradise by the Dashboard Light, I dropped my friend off in Western Coventry and thought, I'm going to race that song home. I bet I can get home before the end of this 8-minute song. And that was the first time I was pulled over, was driving home, 3 a.m. into summer, listening to Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
Yeah, complicated relationship with that song, huh? Yeah. Paradise by the Dashboard Light's a good one because I have memories of it. There was a very specific club in Bowling Green, Ohio, that we found ourselves at on usually, I think Wednesday nights. I think were gay nights, but there was a couple of other themed nights that we would always show up for, and Paradise by the Dashboard Light would inevitably always come on at like 1 or 1:30 in the morning, and there was a group of us that would get up and sing along to the entire thing. At some point, a couple of the younger theater kids had put together like an entire like dance to go to the baseball game, part of it and everything. It was just Paradise by the Dashboard Light. We heard many a time while we were living in that area.
Did you do the Phil Rizzuto part? That seems like cater made for Sejohn. 2 on, nobody out, bottom of the 9th. Here's the play at the plate. Oh my God, he's gonna make it. Sorry.
No, give me a good choice, man. Last songs, right?
Oh,
also, we're down to the end.
Also, I have some complicated feelings about this particular album and the summer of 2011. But continue. Yeah, last songs. What you got, Sejohn?
Kind of keeping in that same era, but with a little bit of a twist. Originally by Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, but actually I'm picking the Charles Bradley version, Changes. Charles Bradley did a phenomenal, he has sadly passed in the last few years, and it's a bummer because he was a phenomenal voice, but has a version of Changes that he recorded, and he told this story, there's a YouTube video of him telling the story before he does a live version of it, but he originally didn't get the song when he was given it to do a cover of. He liked the lyrics well enough and like the vibe to it, but like he just didn't connect with it, and then he found himself sitting by his mother as she passed away, and he said that was when the lyrics really made sense to him, was when he equated it to that relationship, and it became this really important song for him in his career, late in his career, because it became a song that he dedicated to his mother after she passed. And it is this gorgeous, like smooth version of that song. His lyrics, his styling, where it's so, he wails so good. Like for a blues, like he's got a blues wail on him that is just, it shakes you. And so to hear him singing this song and to know that is what's going on as he's singing it's one of those songs that like I stop talking when this song comes on to listen to it. And I frequently find myself driving, down the highway with the windows rolled down, coming back from some movie or coming back from some party. Just last night, we went out to see some friends on the south side of the city that invited us to a cocktail party, and we were driving back at like 10 o'clock at night, and I had the list on to give it a go while we were driving. Figured, what the hell, it's a summer night, right? And yeah, just a phenomenal song, and really kind of, it starts to kind of smooth you out for the night, kind of starts to settle you down for the night.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And if I were a man of a weaker constitution, I would call an audible. But I'm sticking with my last song. And the reason why I'm sticking with this last song is because 10 years ago, the final episode of this series aired. And then on the 6th of June, it was resurrected with a 5th season. Phineas and Ferb has come back with a 5th season. We have not really talked about it. We never really talked about Phineas and Ferb on the show because it had ended before we started doing the Say Report. Mm-hmm. And there was a song that I thought of. It's called Summer Belongs to You. It is from their special, also titled Summer Belongs to You. And it is the wrap-up song of that whole thing. It is your credits music. The credits are playing over this. And this is wrapping up Say-mmer Nights. And the whole thing is that we had this incredible day. And as the night is setting, the realization is that summer belongs to you. There's no right way to celebrate summer. It's at the end of the day, it's your choice. And that felt real good as the way to wrap up Say-mmer Nights. But also, with the reemergence of Phineas and Ferb, it's like the world had forgotten that they were kind of their best friends. And as much as this summer belongs to me and belongs to you, Sejohn, and belongs to all of the audience, weirdly this summer, kicking off with new episodes of Phineas and Ferb, 10 new episodes of Phineas and Ferb, it kind of feels like this summer belongs to them a little bit too. So thematically it fits with this, but then it's also kind of a nice, exciting, happy way. It's going to bring you back from that blues. It's going to make you realize, especially after the journey that this has taken you down, this list of songs, that a summer night is whatever you make of it, right? It's whatever you decide. It's not Summer Breeze like my mother suggested, or Dancing in the Moonlight, or my father going, "Oh, Sandy," when I asked him what's a summer night song. Summer belongs to you, and even though these are the 10 songs that we have chosen to help celebrate the summer of 2025 with our Say-mmer Nights, you can do whatever you want, right? Ultimately, it's up to you. I mean,
these are not... Yeah, in no way are we implying like these are hard and fast like songs that everybody must listen to. We would like you to.
Yeah, right.
More that these are the songs that inspire us to, get up to a little mischief, to go out at night, to hang out on the beach, to when it's too dark to see anything, and who knows what you're gonna do to get in the water. We got up to some dumb shit when we were in college.
Did some stupid things, brother. But we're here to talk about it.
But even now, there's that time of the day where work is over for the family. We've gotten everything done as far as like chores are going to be done for the day. We got food in our bellies, and like the dogs are walked and all that. And so we just sit out on the patio and just kind of just take a breath, take a moment. Part of that is that we've got the swamp cooler. I think I've bitched about that before on the show, that the system that we've got in the house is a swamp cooler. And for anybody that doesn't know, those things sound like a jet engine on the roof of your house all day. So we sit outside so that we don't have to listen to that for a couple of minutes, right? That's part of it. But it's that idea that like there's just nothing weighing on us for that moment. While there's things that we need to get done in the world, like there's bills we got to pay, there's plans we got to make, there's all that shit. But we can't do anything about that at 10:30 p.m. So take a moment to just like relax. And that's what I think the whole point of a summer night is that reminder that, yes, there is work to be done, but right now you can't do it.
Yeah. Grab some rum and some Red Bull, maybe some ocean spray, and just enjoy the night for what it is. And you can get back to it tomorrow if it's really that pressing, right? Oh, goodness. Do you have a bunch of B-sides for this one? Because I
got three. I got two or three. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. At one point, and this is not even gonna be on my B-sides, but it was hard to start this process and not at least listen to "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins.
That's fair. That's very fair.
But no, that did not make it onto the B-sides. But yeah, just honorable mentions. I've got "Good to You" by Stoplight Observations on here, off of the album Orange. The whole album is phenomenal, but that one in particular is my favorite track off of that one. Everlong, specifically the acoustic version, that one goes all the way back to, I think, junior high for me. There are many a woman around Rhode Island that has that on a mixtape or mix CD that I made for them for Everlong's the acoustic version was also one of the first like karaoke songs I ever really got into singing. Yeah, so like that one is that one's there for the classic vibe. And then I had closed mine up with obviously Semisonic Closing Time. What more iconic summer we close the bar out song is there?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's supposedly about a child being born, to quote the singer from Semisonic. And I only bring it up because ever since we brought it up on the show, big friend of the show, friend in real life, Hab Guy, has pointed out to me every time that he has heard Semisonic's Closing Time and how I have ruined and completely changed the song for him by bringing that to his attention. So when I saw it pop up in our chat, I could only smile. I went with 7 songs on the B-sides again, because that's how many we had last time.
Nice. Kicked
it off with Because the Night by Patti Smith. Sandy from Grease, because my father being like, Summer Nights, like, oh, Sandy. And then like Summer Nights from Grease feels a little on the nose, but Stranded at the Drive-In and that idea of like the kind of like suburban summer night. Summer Breeze by Seals and Croft, because it felt right when my mother like looked up the lyrics to prove that they talk about the nighttime in that song. Which is good.
Nice.
This one is kind of sad. If you've never heard the song Yes I by Cashed Out, it's a fantastic song. Definitely the vibes that we talked about with this playlist. But Never Meet Your Heroes, I thought that it was another like, there's a bunch of white guys. And then like learning about them being a bunch of white guys, them singing a heavy reggae vibe thing. They have picked up the torch that was left behind by 311 and OAR in ways that I was not prepared for, is what I'm going to say. Then I did Found Out About You by the Gym Blossoms, because I love that all last summer, in case you don't recall. Dancing in the Moonlight, specifically the cover by the Baha Men, because it's nice to be reminded that the Baha Men were actually good singers and not just the ones who were the dogs that were let out who then became human beings. That's a weird song. Someday we gotta talk about who let the dogs out. And then I finish it up with The Promised Land by Bruce Springsteen, which talks a lot about the things that we've been discussing, about how like, we have these grand dreams, but once the sun has set in the summer, it's time to just focus on what we got, right? I believe in the Promised Land, but right now I'm just gonna have a beer and chill with my friends, my loved ones. We can get there tomorrow. So yeah, so those will be up. Here's the other thing. I've been kind of slacking on supplemental materials. By the time this releases to YouTube I think that's going to be the 30th? I don't know dates. I should know dates. On July 1st, when this episode releases to YouTube, supplemental materials will be up to date with everything that I've promised to post since the George Wendt episode. That's a Devon Decker promise, not a Say Report promise. So there's like a slightly better chance that it'll happen. Anything else you want to say here, Siege, about the Say-mmer nights?
No, let us know if there's anything that you think you should be added to it, because like I would love to get some more music together on it. But I know I'm gonna once we got this playlist together, it's getting downloaded. It's gonna be a frequent one for a bit.
God, I mean, I re-listened to last year's and I'm just like, man, it's so. Thank you, writer strike, actor strike, for like letting Sejohn and I lean into our love of making playlists, as evidenced by a lot of women in Rhode Island got Everlong's live acoustic version on a mixtape from Sejohn Sarwick. Like it's part of who we are. Like creating little mixes of music is part of who the two of us are, separate from each other. So the fact that we're able to come here and do these episodes where we like kind of combine forces like Voltron to create these musical playlists. It's awesome.
I think we've talked about this before, but I was the kind of kid that had like a blank cassette tape in my boombox, so that when a song came on the radio that I liked, I could hit record like immediately.
I had two. I had one for radio appearances and one just for songs. Because my mom calling into the radio all the time. Oh, we got to record that one. All right, Mom's not going to be on the radio probably. Let's put in the song tape. I was just reminded of, this is the thing that we never really talked about. Probably going to talk about that first episode in July. We'll touch on it. All of the episodes from South Park that are going to go to the banned side once they come back from HBO Max to Paramount Plus. So I've been watching those episodes, and one that I probably haven't watched since the 90s is Big Gay Al, where Stan has the gay dog and they're in the football game and everything.
Really?
And
I have seen that episode a few times. So I probably since the 90s. I'm surprised that that's one that you hadn't seen in a bit.
Yeah. And I was reminded of, and I don't know who did it, the mashup between mostly that episode of South Park and My Heart Will Go On that they literally used to play on 92 Pro FM. And I don't think they're the ones who put it together. I think it was just something that was out there in the world, but I heard it over the radio.
Oh man. That's the George Clooney episode, right?
No. George Clooney plays the doctor. It's the next one, I believe.
I thought that was the joke is that it's why they let him play the doctor in the movie is because he kept asking to do something on the show and they made him play the dog in that episode. I may be making that up.
No, I mean, you're not wrong. He's definitely in a season 1 episode of South Park. Now I'm looking this up and I have no problem doing it. Hold on. Then we can send the people on their way. Thank you so much for joining us. He's in Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride as Sparky, the gay dog. Way to go, Sejohn. I apologize.
And he ends up coming back into to play the doctor in the movie as like a thank you. But like at the time, I can't remember if it's that he was like pushing to be on it or that Paramount was pushing them to put a guest star into an episode, and this was their big like fuck you to that. But whatever it was, they just thought it would be hilarious that they would get George Clooney to come in and then just play the dog.
So according to the IMDb on the episode, a vocal fan of this series, largely responsible for generating news about the spirit of Christmas animated film, Parker said they decided to cast a famous actor in the small role of Sparky. We thought it was funny and they wanted to do something different from The Simpsons, which did like stunt casting all the time. And since it rips on celebrities, we wanted to degrade them in other ways too. Let's have a celebrity, but have them do a really minor, unimportant thing. Comedy Centrals were excited at the prospect of having Clooney appear on the show, but Parker said they were disappointed to learn his role would be so small.
Yeah, man, the history of South Park and like the idea that it started as just like a tape that was handed around in Hollywood for a while, and people were just like, "Have you seen this shit?" Like, we gotta talk about South Park again sometime.
Especially
not my favorite show in the world nowadays, but we cannot deny its importance in the zeitgeist, right?
And I think that with the fact that like 20 episodes are going to go onto the banned list once it goes from HBO Max to Paramount Plus. And that's crazy to me. Especially, it's what got me to finally watch the rehearsal episode about the banned episode of Nathan For You. And that whole thing. We're gonna take our Say Report themed journalism and we're gonna aim our sniper rifle at Paramount Plus for the next episode. That should be fun.
Maybe that's not the way we're putting it. But anyway.
I don't know. Buffalo Ranch style journalism here at the Say Report. No, not like that. I'm just saying they're gonna be in our sights for the next one. We'll talk about it a little bit. All right. Anything else to say, Sejohn, before we send this one off to the people? We're mostly to Will to say his final thing.
Happy summer, everybody.
Yeah, happy summer. It's officially summer. Thanks for joining us. And if you want to keep the conversation going, suggest your own songs for Say-mmer nights, join our Discord. Invitations to do so are available wherever we are on social media, which as of this recording is still Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. You can always send an email to us as well. That's thesayreport say-mmer@gmail.com, and we can facilitate you with an invitation, or we can just communicate like it's the 90s and all we have is email. And again, if you're sending something for specifically me, Devon Decker, or him, Sejohn Sarowick, that Red Bull and rum caught up to me, Sejohn, or him, Sejohn Sarowick, just put our name in the subject line and we will make sure that it is distributed appropriately so that your private hopes, wishes, thoughts, and dreams will only go to the Say reporter of your choosing. With all of that said, again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with an episode that's recorded live like that same week in July. But until then, William, please bring us home. See you all next time.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Sarowick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.